Hi, welcome to this episode. Today I'm chatting with Pat Moir. Pat joined the army in 1964, first with the Royal Signals and then transferred to the Royal Horse Artillery. Today Pat talks about his time within the regiment and serving in Northern Ireland and Hong Kong, with some quite interesting stories about camp life. If you like this podcast or the previous ones, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Frankie'sPod. It just goes to help fund the software and the hosting. Welcome to today's episode. Today I'm talking to Pat Moir. Hi Pat, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
So, can you just give us a quick overview, really, or well, quick as long as you want, really. It's your story of like where you grew up, why you joined the army, what it was like, and then we'll go on from there.
Right, well, I grew up in Livingston Town, just outside Blackpool. And when I left school, I went to work for Trinity House Pilotage as a deckhand on a pilot cutter, working from Preston, 15 miles out to sea to the Nelson Buoy. I then got a job, better paid job, with a tug working on the Mersey and the Ship Canal. Lovely job, everything, until the winter of 63. Well, the sea froze, literally the sea froze up to about 3 or 4 miles out to sea. So obviously, I was out of work. So Livingston Town, the only employers in them days was premium bonds. So I thought, well, I'll go to London and get a job there. So I went to London, spent 2 nights on the floor of my grandparents' house, and then found digs on my own. Interesting thing, you couldn't do it today. As you're going around looking for boarding houses, big signs up, vacancies, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs, in that order. Anyway, I found a nice place for digs, and then I got a job, believe it or not, in an army surplus store in Oxford Street.
Right.
Which was fine. But again, worked all through the summer, was great, but when the winter came, again, it was cold. Well, there was no heating in this house except electric fire, and you had to put coins in a meter. Well, you know, you put half a crown in, and 2 minutes later, it was gone. It was that cold, I can remember I used to have to put all my clothes on and go back to bed again.
Yeah.
So anyway, I used to have to pass the... sometimes I used to walk to work. It was 10 shillings. I was getting £9.50 a week, and it was £2.50 for my lodgings, and it was 10 shillings a week for a underground weekly ticket. And it was quite useful because we had Thursday afternoons off, being a shop, and also in the evenings. It was so cold to keep warm. I used to get on the underground and just go backwards and forwards, just picking up the newspapers at leaving, just to keep warm.
Yeah.
Then go back to my digs about 10:30 at night. Anyway, sometimes when I was short of money, I used to walk to work. So it's quite a long walk. You have to walk down the Harrow Road onto the Edgware Road up to Marble Arch, turn left at Marble Arch into Oxford Street. But you used to have to pass the recruiting office by Marble Arch. So I slept in there one day, and I wanted to join the Ports Regiment, albeit I wanted to serve on tank landing craft and this sort of thing. And I said, no chance, no chance. I said, what about marine engineer? No chance, no chance. So I said, what about radio operator? Oh, he said, you want to be a radio operator? I said, yeah. He said, Royal Signals for you. So I signed up, and they sent me to an old TA centre, which is in Old Scotland Yard Street, which is just off Whitehall. And there I had the physical. Took the Queen's shilling. They gave me 2 days' pay and a railway warrant to Yorkshire. But I didn't know it at the time, but my father and my grandfather both signed on there for the First World War. My father joined the Machine Gun Corps, and because he was from London, he was attached to the 2nd Battalion, the City of London Regiment, which was the 2nd Fusiliers, and my grandfather joined the Queen's Regiment. But when they found out by trade he was a maintenance engineer, he was transferred to the Royal Engineers, where he was put in charge of a load of Chinese coolies, and they used to dig wells for drinking water for the troops. So anyway, went up to Yorkshire, and Helley's barracks, Helley's lines in the 11th Signal Training Regiment. When I first got there, the first thing I noticed was it was all highly polished floors, and all the brass work for all the fire equipment was all highly polished. And basically, the floors were done with Red Admiral wax. And to my mind, it was like making a giant firelighter. We used to put loads of this wax down every day and rub it in with a bumper.
Yeah.
Anyway, the first night there, we were in 12-man rooms. The first night there was at least one, if not two, boys crying. Yeah. It was their first night away from home. Well, to me, I'd been away for 2 years, so it didn't bother me. The next day, we all marched off to get haircuts, and the chap in the bed next to me, he's crying his eyes out. He had a lovely mop of blonde hair that was waved off on the ground. And then we met our drill sergeant, who was Sergeant Dooley, and he was a naughty boy. He had so many scams for ripping off the recruits. It was untrue. Yeah. It was one thing after another, like charging us for getting our kit done. And I thought he was doing a rake off with the tailors and all this. Yeah. But he got the following group after he got caught out. The scam he tried on the next intake was that his mother had died.
Right.
And he needed money to bury her. So people had anyway, someone bubbled him, and he was court-martialed, kicked out the army, and he became an insurance salesman. So anyway, I was posted to Germany to 1st HQ and Signal Regiment. And at the time, I didn't know how cushy it was. It was a lovely place. Burnt is a lovely little town. 2 rivers running through it, the old Aller and the new Aller. And I love fishing, so I'm fishing. And what I didn't realise then was because we were at Divisional HQ, we didn't do all that many exercises, only the big ones. And when we did, we had a cookhouse. We even had toilets, showers, film shows.
Wow.
Anyway, it wasn't until I left, and I got, after 2 years, you get up at posting, because in the signals, you get posted individuals. So every 2 years or so, you get up to posting, or you can ask for one. Whereas people at RHA move as a whole regiment. So I've been there 2 years. And my best mate, my first roommate, was a jock lad, and he was an alcoholic, and he loved his food. So quite often we used to raid the cookhouse at night, climb in. And if I don't feel broken for cookhouse at night, of course you don't put the lights on. Unless you're walking across the floor, you hear a crunching sound. Yeah. Because you're walking on all the cockroaches. We also knew how to get into the compost stores. And literally our room, we had the floorboards up, and all the tins of compo were lined up underneath it. Anyway, the squadron sergeant major called me into his office one day. And while I was in there, he was actually doing the guard roster. And he said to me, right, he said, where's your mate getting all this compo from? So I said, well, he's rebro, it's what's left over from exercise. He says, don't give me that. The rebro boys, they eat themselves out in the first couple of days. Anyway, he got called out of the room. And not missing an opportunity, I went through, he had an index box with index cards in for the guard roster. Yeah. And you name comes to the front, puts it down, goes to the back. Went through, got my card, whipped it out, put it in my pocket. Well, in them days, we used to buy guards. Yeah. 20 marks, which is about £2. And I think my second guard that I did, I got stickman, which meant you got the night off, and the morning you spent as a CO's runner, and the afternoon off. Great, so I did CO's runner, then went fishing in the afternoon. So then I started buying guards, and I was getting stickman every time, because my uniform was immaculate. So anyway, the Scotland Sergeant Major called me in again to find out why I'm never there. I said, well, I'm doing stickman. He said, right, he says, no more guards for you for 6 months. And he got his box up for mine, and he went fucking bonkers, and my card wasn't in there. So anyway, then the time came for posting, and someone said, I would like a poster. I said, where to? He said, 3-hour chair. I said, where are they? He said, Kenya. Oh, I said, yeah, I love that, because my half-brother was, he worked for Gallagher's Tobacco Company, and he was a police special during the Mau Mau uprising.
Right.
I thought, oh, I'll have a piece of that. The little line bastard didn't tell me that the RHA were coming to Germany. So anyway, they came out to me and said, I said, well, you're going to have to pull your socks up, you're going there. So a few months later, I got up to Detmold, and I made the mistake of wearing civvy shoes with my number 2 dress. And it's called Wings Wakeman, who was the BSM HQ battery. He was called Wings Wakeman because he had his eye everything from being a tail gunner in a Lancaster during the war.
Oh, wow.
So, of course, he gave me a good bollocking for having the wrong shoes on. Then I joined the signals troop, and it was a nice little group of lads. But the exercises, we did a lot more. We had to do all our own catering. There was no toilets or showers and things like that. No film shows. And we did a lot of them. But at the weekends, we used to go up to the 20 Signal Squadron club, which was at the other side of Detmold, Hobart Barracks in Detmold. We always used to get pissed, and one night we're coming back, and the lads decided to go on to a nightclub. Forget which town it was, but it was over the Teutoburger range anyway. So we nicked a Land Rover. In them days, it was so easy. You just hot-wired the Land Rover by disconnecting one of the wires on your wiper blade and putting it into the positive socket of the inspection socket on the dashboard, and the engine would start. So off we went, and then about 3 o'clock in the morning, all well pissed, we're coming back, and the lad driving was really drunk. We hit, coming over the Teutoburger like a zigzag over the top of the mountains, we hit the side barrier, and we literally ripped the sides of the Land Rover open. Then we thought we'd run out of petrol. Now, you can imagine it, 6 squaddies pissed, trying to just work out how much petrol they've got in their tank. So you lifted the seat up, undid the cap, and lit a cigarette lighter. Right. So anyway, then they realised that all we had to do is, under the dashboard, little levers, change tanks, which we did. Got us back into Detmold. We parked the wagon up in the married quarters and went off to bed. Following Saturday, same thing. We're all up the Signals Club and going business as usual. As we're coming back, the duty driver had left his Land Rover with the keys in and the engine running outside the HQ block. Well, not missing an opportunity. All the lads piled in, including me. And I don't know what made me do it, but I thought, no. After last week, so I jumped out, went to bed, woke up in the morning, none of the lads were with me, none of the rest of the signal troop. Because they stolen the duty driver's wagon, it was missed.
Oh, yeah.
So, of course, the police, the German police were out there and grabbed them, and they all got locked up. And they all got a week's nick, but the lad who was driving got a month, and he had to go to Colts to nick. And funny enough, I was going on leave when I escorted him there. And I can remember many of us picked us up from North Station, Colchester, dropped us up at the door gates to the MTCC, and his face dropped. The reason being, there was 2 lads with a wheelbarrow full of earth, and they were running. Mm-hmm. But they weren't pushing the wheelbarrow, they're holding it above their heads.
Oh, right.
So that was his introduction, so he happy, so dropped him off. And then we had, things were pretty dull we did escape and evasion exercises and all different sorts of things, and always inconvenience. But then one day we had Lieutenant Colonel Dickie Trant. He was brilliant. He was the bestest COO ever served. Not any of them were bad, but he was actually special. He didn't look much of a soldier. He was sort of a bit rotund and had thick glasses, but by God, he did wonders with that regiment. So when we had this escape and evasion exercise, I said, right, what we'll do, we'll call it Slippery Sam. So what we did is just HQ battery were given one of the baby pigs from the regimental pig farm and a barrel of beer. And the idea was every battery managed to steal it from HQ battery, got to barbecue the pig and got the barrel of beer. Well, everybody got really keen and interested, instead of being, just another inconvenient exercise. We found out that one battery was going to come in by helicopter. So we put the pig underneath some high-tension electric wires. But anyway, I forget which battery got it. But what they did is the doctor gave them a needle, the hypodermic needle, and some knockout drops. They injected the pig, knocked it out, tied it to a stretcher, and off they went with it. And then another time we had on our admin day, the general visiting us. The task he gave was one of the batteries to prove that they were battle ready, so that to do the battle run, the 2 hours, 10 miles, and all the other bits and pieces you did. So he lined them all up. I think that was C battery, which was Major Templar was in charge then. So he said, right, he said, there's a maiden in distress at this address. If you go and get her and rescue her and bring her back, you'll be rewarded in gold. So, but of course, Major Templar, he's on his horse in front, and off they trot. So, around 5 miles up, and sure enough, they came across this maiden, and it was the general's driver with a blonde wig on. They put him on a stretcher, and they all ran back with him. And they all lined up, and the general walked along there, and he had a big bag of chocolate gold money. And he gave everybody a chocolate gold coin.
Can I just interrupt a minute? You mentioned earlier about the BSM, who was a tail gunner in a Lancaster.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, 16 years or so since the end of the Second World War?
Well, 64, been 19 years.
19. Was there still, like,
No, 20, it'd be 2021, yeah.
Yeah. When you first, like, went to training and stuff like that, and then first got your regiment, was there still people who had served in the Second World War, sorry.
All the senior ranks in the signals were all
the
Second World War, including the chap who was doing the guard roster. He was ex-Second World War.
And did they seem like a different breed of people to what you were?
They did. And also they used to call it, whenever we did an exercise, they saw we did the big one, meaning the Second World War. Yeah. They were completely different.
Were they kind of like held aloft, were they kind of looked up to because of that?
No, they were just they looked older for their age. Nowadays you look at them, they look quite young, but they look quite like old men. And of course in them days they had to leave after 22 years when they were in the very early 40s.
Yeah.
Where now obviously people are a lot fitter and stay younger. But no, but they never talked very much about the war.
No.
It's only they did the big one and that was it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of mental, isn't it? You think, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, really, when you think back in history. It wasn't that long ago, especially when you joined.
No.
Right, sorry to interrupt you there. I just wanted to ask that question. Do you want to carry on?
So Colonel Dickie Trout, and he was brilliant. And in them days, the trouble was recruiting. We were very much under strength. And in them days, you had to do fatigues. And each battery did it for a week. So once a month, you were fatigue battery, which means you did all the duties, the guard, the fire pickets, peeling spods in the cookhouse, all this. And the sergeant would be there with a list of things, and he'd run out of people before he'd run out of fatigue for him to do. Yeah. So the thing then became was that all the regiment were responsible for their own recruiting. So they set up a public relations office, and they were looking for an NCO to act as, working there with the thing. So I don't know why, but I volunteered for it, and I got the job, and I worked with Captain Dowd, a brilliant chap, and basically it was doing local boy stories do good, sending photographs into their local newspapers. Then when we recruited somebody, keep writing to them. What was happening was you'd recruit somebody and someone would come along and steal them for basics training for their regiment.
Yeah.
So the problem. So anyway, they decided they needed a regimental photographer. So I got the job. They sent me up to 4 Div HQ to the intelligence corps, and they had all the darkroom kit and set up. And I did 2 weeks up there learning about cameras and the darkroom and developing all that. And then back to Detmold. Then various things happened. We had a meeting with the colonel. So much funny things as well. He said, we must get more photographs in the newspapers. Well, blow me, the following Sunday, the News of the World, big middle page spread, 2 pages, a wet night in barracks. And it was all about 3RHA on a Friday night. And what happened was a corporal from another regiment, his wife, who was a prostitute, and another prostitute, came to HQ battery block and used the clubhouse, which was in the attic. And he was selling porno mags as they queued up outside the thing. Inside, they were showing porno movies. And then for 20 marks, you get your leg over one of the women. Well, what they did is they took over the cook's room, which was right next to the... Anyway, the cook came back from town. And he said, fucking my bed you're using. So let him have a jump free, so it's okay then. So he got a free leg over. Well, I should have known something happened, but unfortunately I was on the next floor down and the furthest room away from where it was all happening. And I should have known something was wrong because twice I was woken up in the early morning by people wanting to borrow 20 marks off me. Anyway, the next day they got caught and the RSM had everybody in it. All told, 27 men went through these 2 girls and he had all their names. And a chap called Doug Moir was the bonco at the time. Of course, he got court-martialed. And of course, it flashed all over the News of the World.
Wow.
So anyway, the colonel did say he wanted to get more coverage, and he got it.
It's weird because I remember stuff like that happening in the late 80s as well, and it hit the papers. Yeah. It was 2, and I remember the names. It was 2 girls called Candy and Shirley. It wasn't our the regiment we were with, but yeah, it was. I remember that in the paper. So it's kind of a recurring theme, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we had regular girls, local girls. One was called Squeegee Lips, for obvious reasons. And the bloke would bring her back from downtown, have his leg over. Then he'd shout 2s up. She'd go into the next room. And J Battery used to complain because J Battery was the only block with iron bars on their windows, which meant Juicy Lucy couldn't get in and out very easily, but never mind.
So you're still Royal Signals then?
No, yeah, I haven't got to that bit yet. No, sorry. So in 60, no, I wasn't Signals. I swapped over. What happened was in 68, they withdrew all the signal troops, right? Mm-hmm. And you just had a rear link sergeant, Tidwell signal sergeant. So because the regiment was so good, and it was, I mean, Dickie Trump, what he did, and I've got loads more to say about him. And I was in the regimental skiing team and the basketball team. And I didn't want to leave the regiment. And so I just swapped hat badges, and so did 2 other lads, Harry Streeter and a lad called Pat Hunter, rest in peace. So we just tied over, and the rest of the lads went with poachers to forward him. But what Dickie Chance said was right. People join the army for sport and adventure, which is true. That's why I joined. So he said, what we're going to do is, provided you get your work done, every afternoon is going to be a sports afternoon. So but what you did is Wednesday was always sports day. So on Wednesday you did your papers, what sport you're best at, but every other day of the week you had to do something different. Yeah. So I started playing hockey and rugby for the first time. And it was absolutely brilliant. And when we had 20 Armour Brigade, had a minor units, pentathlon, J Battery were first. Well, the batteries were, 3RHA batteries were first, second, third and fourth, because we were so fit from doing so much sport. Then also we won the McElwain Cup for the gunner, and we load everything. And what the colonel did, he called Bombardier Ben Goffin, who was a regimental carpenter. And she was right. He said, I want some shelves put up in RHQ. And he said, I want that one for the McElwain Cup for this. I want that one for the football, that one for rugby, that one for this, that one for that. The following year, there was a cup on each one of them shelves. He was brilliant. And then, of course, after that, we got posted to Colchester, and we did, in the space of 2 years, we did what we called it 5 tours of Northern Ireland. But in fact, in my book, I mean, there's only 2 down because there's only 2 that were over 4 months.
Yeah.
But basically, the local newspaper called us the Yo-Yo Boys. And each time we came back from Ireland, there's one photograph, and all getting on a coach to come back from the station. And this blokes with broken arms and all patched up. We get a bit shit knocked out of us sometimes. And he just said, the Yo-Yo Boys are back in town. So...
no, I'd heard stories about like that time where people were coming back off what they call the emergency tours, literally landing in camp and then turning around and going straight back out again.
Yeah.
I've even heard guys coming off a plane and then getting back on it to go back out again.
Well, we came back, it was an internment started, and our movement tour had finished. And because the army won't let the RRA know that we're up to something, they pulled us out as we're supposed to come out. Because if we stayed, I think it was giving the game away. Now, we landed back in England on the Monday. And on the 3rd, I think I came back on a cattle ship. And our Land Rovers were loaded by the old-fashioned cranes. And and then in the middle of the night on the Thursday, we went up to Brize Norton and we put aboard a Hercules. Prop-driven plane, and that's a long old journey flying one of them things. All you smell was paraffin. Like all good soldiers, we just went to sleep. Now we landed in the very early hours of the morning in Shackleton Air Base in Londonderry, and it was pouring with rain, and the plane stopped about half a mile from this hangar. So at the march to the hangar got nice and wet, and we just lay on the concrete floor till the morning. And then coaches painted white picked us up and took us into Edmonton Barracks in Londonderry, which is on the water side. Of course, Edmonton Barracks used to be an airfield, a naval base, everything during the war. And they put us in the AKC cinema. But they took all the seats out to make room for us and gave us camp beds. Well, of course, it's on a slope, the floor. So what we did is we put a suitcase at one end and put... But what happened that court, it caused our camp beds to sort of break in the middle. And then literally that morning, HQ Battery were kept in reserve. And again, we were with J Battery, but they went out about 3 o'clock in the morning. And we were out on the parade ground, which gave a grandstand view of the bog side and the Craigan. And the noise was unbelievable. There was bombs going off, there was machine gun fire, there was bullets going off, great big plumes of black smoke pouring up. And we were charging at the bit, let's get in. Yeah. But anyway, then this lorry came in, and it was carrying the walking wounded, mostly with petrol burns, Well, that sounds all like, it changed. We didn't, that changed our minds. And we went in, finally, and we had this shit kicked out of us. I think what it is, we used the old rock formation.
Yeah.
We'd been trained that for quite some time because we were training to go to Liberia a couple of times just before we left Germany. Well, you can't shoot people in Ireland, so of course the box formation doesn't work, and you can't put your white tape out. The 2 blokes putting the white tape out would get beaten shit out of. So anyway, that didn't go down at all well. And what happened was the lads went in about 3 o'clock in the morning, and all told, I think it was 370 RA suspects wanted to be arrested. So the army had 370 names and addresses. J Battery had a couple. And off they went. And what he did, they didn't knock on the door. He just kicked the front door down. You run up the stairs. Anybody like age or sex and thing, you grabbed.
Yeah.
And literally, you grabbed them by their ankles, pulled them out of the bed, and you ran down the stairs, a man on each ankle. So you can imagine the carpet burns on these guys. Then you throw them in the back of a Land Rover or a pig if you had to pick. And the lad sitting around the side, he'd be lying on the floor, lads around the side, would have their feet on him. And one of the lads called Titch was in the back. And the lad they put in, he was kicking and screaming and shouting. And someone said, "Oh, shut him up." So Titch just tapped him with his rifle. He said, "Go hit him." So Titch broke his arm. Well, so anyway, it still goes on. Later on in the day, Titch got his arm, but it was either Titch or somebody in J Battery got their arm broken in a riot. They got £50 compensation, but the RA man got £5,000 compensation for his broken arm.
Yeah, a bit different.
So as I was obviously by then, they put me in the intelligence section as a photographer because obviously, so when we went, I used to take the darkroom with me. And of course, the first place was Gough Barracks in Armagh, and it's got two cathedrals, both St Patrick's. One's Catholic cathedral and one's Protestant. And almost next door to Gough Barracks was the women's prison, and that's where what's the name of the little shit? Bernadette
Devlin.
Yeah. She had an immaculate conception because she fell pregnant while in that woman's prison. So I was doing a lot of jobs. I was doing I was on the roster for the ops room, manning the radios and the telephone exchange, and I was doing two other jobs as well. I was making a cine film, a recruiting film. It was a lovely camera, Bolex clockwork camera, so it was in colour but no sound. And also, every now and again, I get dragged out to do some photographs for the intelligence corps. Mostly, it would be hiding somewhere at night, somewhere, and then daytime taking photographs of a particular place, and then getting withdrawn the following night. And then also, they were doing newsletters for the farmers back home. Basically, I was doing photographs, and these were printed out on a sheet with captions, and they were sent back to wives. So it was good. So I was doing that, and it kept me busy. We were allowed out in threes at the time because no one had been killed. And then, of course, the three Scotsmen, the cousins and the mate, who got lured to death by some birds, that stopped all that. The numbers you weren't allowed out.
It's crazy to think that you actually were allowed out. I mean, I didn't go out to Ireland until the 80s, like late 80s, and the thought of actually going out, it just wouldn't have entered anyone's mind. I mean, I did get to do it once when I went to Lisbon, and I was told I'd go to Lisbon for a medical appointment, and I was stuck there all day, and I was said, like, what shall I do? And the guy in the guard room said, "Well, just go downtown." And I was like, "What? I can't go out. I can't go out. Yeah, it's Lisbon. You can do what you want." So I went downtown on my own and into Woolworths and got a pick and mix and stuff like that. I was only a young lad, and I was literally, it must have been so obvious that I was a squaddy anyway, because everywhere there was an IUC bloke, I was like, right, I'll stay near him. I was bricking myself, and it was only Lisbon. So to imagine like yous going out in places like Armagh, Newry, and wherever in them days, I was just thinking, not for me.
It's funny you should mention that, but while we were manning the telephone, the lads were chatting up the army women at Lisbon who worked the phone that end. Of course, we were making dates, and we'll have to go out in threes. I mean, we had to get a bus, change at Dungannon, but you had to have an NCO with them. So the lads asked me to go with them, so I used to. And I got there, and there's all these boys and girls in number twos walking out of Lisbon camp, going into town in uniform. The guard is in number 2 dress with a pick helm. Now, our camp, we had 3 machine gun nests. We had killing zones. it seemed so unreal. 2 bus rides away.
Yeah.
Anyway, what happened when we flew back that time, that's when, and the second time, we did, I think, did a couple of weeks, then came back, say on a Monday, then flew back out on a Thursday. And Bombardier Paul Chandler, lovely man, lovely bloke. In that 4 days between those 2 tours, he went to visit his wife in hospital to see her and his baby son. So he spent 2 hours with them. And then on the 13th of August, it's either interment day or the day afterwards, he was shot by a sniper. And he was up in a silo which was built inside a chimney, a factory chimney, a big metal torch chimney. And what happened was a car drove along, stopped, blew its horn. Meanwhile, across the road in the house, they had a sniper set up with a rifle, and it was literally clamped with a vice to a table and broke guy on the, and shot him in the chest here. And at the time, we didn't know. I mean, we were only 100 yards away, but you didn't know what was happening. It was so bad. Where he was awful. It was the International Shirt Factory at Blythe Lane. Scots Guards were in there before us, and they had outside toilets. And a few of the Scots Guards got killed because they machine gunned the toilet block when they were in there.
Jesus.
Then J Battery went in there, followed by C Battery, and they came under the command of the Royal Anglians, because obviously it was turning purple. So we went with the light infantry, some was posted to, and of course they gave us the shittiest jobs. And all I heard, a chap was just being thing to me, taking the piss, because I was standing with all my cameras on, and I was taking some photos. It was like the First World War. They built their barricades, so we built barricades even bigger, with firing steps and everything on. And I was doing this photograph of 2 squaddies on fire, they'd been caught by a petrol bomb. And what they used to do was, because the barricades were there, they used to spin the petrol bomb through the air onto the roofs of the houses, hoping it would roll down and onto a nitch what happened. And the third soldier was trying to put them out with his shield. But after that, they all got issued with little tiny barrel tin, which actually fitted into your ammunition pouch.
Yeah.
So this chap said, "How's your mate?" I said, "What mate?" He said, "The one that got shot." I didn't have a clue who he meant, or his aunt heard him about being shot. So I said he's all right. Well, a few moments later, was the back of Rosemount Police Station, which is about 600 yards away from the shirt factory, and some of the lads were lying behind the police station in the garden of a lunatic asylum, which obviously had a big wall around it, and the bad guys wouldn't go in there because they knew they'd get trapped. So it's a safe place to have a rest. Just got round there, and all of a sudden, I heard a scream. Didn't hear the shot, just heard the scream. And then, if you heard a bullet, it's gone past you, because bullet goes past the speed of sound. Anyway, there's just a Corporal Lanscombe, and he's lying on the ground screaming. Well, I've seen some of the other lads who've been shot who just had flesh wounds. Typical one, Rod Walker, I'll tell you about him later. He was screaming his head off and screaming for his mother. And the bullet was a dum-dum bullet, a 45. They went to be fired from a Tommy Gun Thompson. And what they'd done, they'd sawn across in the top with a hacksaw. And I think it went into his ankle and went up into his knee. Wow. A bit bullet. And had a nice little, no blood whatsoever. He had a nice little round hole top of his ankle, like a brown mark round it. Well, literally, he screamed non-stop. And you were a Saracen armoured car arrived, ambulance, with a doctor in it, and it was being driven by Pete Harrison, who was a mate of mine. He was the HQ battery medic. So I ride shotgun. So I jumped in the front with him, and the doc got in the back with this corporal. And I asked Pete what happened, and Pete had been there to when Paul had been shot. So he told me, and I was absolutely gobsmacked. You know, when you think, oh, couldn't it have been some scrim or somebody, not a good guy?
Yeah.
You know, why is it? You know, that kept going through my mind. But he had to go up there. And of course, can you imagine being up inside a chimney on like a metal rung ladder that bolts aside, trying to get somebody out? That was had to do. And he said he unzipped his flak jacket, nice and neat little hole here, but a huge hole at the back. So he just zipped him up again, and they got to hospital. So after they got him to hospital, he survived the first night, so he was supposed to live, but he died. Of course, everybody said, well, it was the Outward-Given Hospital. All the nurses were Catholics. Oh, the nurses pulled his tubes out and all this shit. I mean, probably didn't. So anyway, when we got to Outward-Given, we had this lad in the back, put him on a stretcher, and he was still screaming his head off. And as they went in, a woman and a child were coming out of the hospital, and she said to me, is he a friend of yours? Well, I didn't know him from Adam. So I just said, yes. And she said, I'm so sorry. So then we got back to back to the police station, and what happened was, because of internment, J Battery were given the addresses to go to, and also were given the job of guarding the police station. So there'd been about 7 soldiers and 2 policemen in there. It's only like a house.
Yeah.
And of course, when internment started, all the locals thought, right, that's where their husbands and sons had been taken. Well, they hadn't. So of course they attacked it. 300 or 400 strong. Petrol bombed it. Shot at it. One of the jail, he got hit in the face with a brick. So they put him outside, laid him in the garden. He got hit by another brick that came over the top of the thing, hit him. And then reinforcements arrived at J-Bat, and basically they just lined up outside the Rosemount police station. And it's this huge crowd of stoning and petrol bombing them. And all of a sudden, this lad, he crept up on all fours with a pistol. And literally, he using the young lad's shoulder to rest his pistol on. And he fired 6 shots at J Battery, hitting 5 soldiers. Now, Rod Walker, he was shot in the shoulder, and he went down. He got up because he thought he'd been hit by another brick. And that's what it's like, being shot and brick, no different. Then someone said, oh, he said, look, it's all blood coming down your leg. So again, they took him behind the police station, opened his shirt and that, and blood was pouring down, and it was all over his nice white T-shirt. And he said, "My wife will kill me when I get home." But he, before that, had been involved in one of the raids, obviously, and another incident where his driving actually saved a lot of people. He was very quick. But to me, he should have got more recognition than he did. I don't think he even got mentioned in dispatches. But Big Skin or Dave, BT J Battery, stuck a lit cigarette in his mouth, and of course, John Baker didn't smoke. But for him to do that, he must have been pleased with him, because Rod always thought that John Baker didn't like him. One of the lads got shot in his bell end. The bullet went through his shield. It went to the zip of his combat jacket, the zip of his trousers, clipped his bell end, and fell into his boot. Well, it was lovely. He was always showing the girls his war wound. He said, "Look, see my war wound." Yeah, so there's so many things. Yeah, then we had the worst bit, I think, was we did Christmas 1971, and again we did Christmas 72, And that one in Belfast, we were reinforced with 7 RHA, and also we were posted next to Palace Barracks where the second paras were. And of course, we were there for Bloody Sunday. We had a lot of trouble in that we were very much hearts and minds. So we only issued with 10 rounds of ammunition. And so you can see the difference between, we were taught, some of the paras fired more than 20 rounds each. But there's only issued with 10 rounds. But we had a lot of problems in our area. There were, the army came up with the idea of putting paratroopers in groups of 4 in civilian clothes, armed with pistols. And the idea being was to catch the RA planting bombs, right? Good idea. The problem is, all of a sudden, armed robberies started occurring all over Belfast. And it was a group of paras doing it. One of them was Corporal Giorgio Costu. He was a Greek Cypriot. He come top in his court in the paras, and he was made the colonel's bodyguard. But anyway, he I think he got 7 years nick for it, along with a few others, and quite a few others deserted and went into Southern Ireland. But when he did his time, he went to Angola as a mercenary.
Yes, you know what? I thought I recognised that name.
Yeah.
So, very interesting bloke who was a bit of a bell end, to be honest.
Yeah, but they did cause a lot of trouble. In fact, our colonel, which wasn't Dickie Trant then, it was Colonel Budd, and I know his son became chair of the regiment, and I think his grandson, who's the Andrew Budd at the moment, is there? In 3RHA? I don't know if he's related to him, but he was so upset by them that he actually wrote an open letter to the Daily Telegraph about it. And then, of course, shortly after that, of course, we had Bloody Sunday. And how I heard about it, it was absolutely, I couldn't believe it. I was with my Brit going through Sunnyside Street, which was a Protestant area, close by the market, which was a nasty part of Belfast. And all of a sudden, a packet of fags came flying into the back of the Land Rover. And then later on, we stopped, and the bloke walked on, he shoved a bottle of whiskey through the window, and also have a swig. He's saying, well done, well done. I said, what are you on about? He said, you didn't kill enough of the bastards. So I said, well, he said, you shot 20-odd fucking Catholics. And these Protestants were so overjoyed, dancing up and down. And I felt so disgusted. I can't say too much about, obviously, because, yes, I know a hell of a lot what happened, but I can't say. No. Also, the only thing I can say, I was absolutely disgusted by the way the Protestants reacted. And patches on the back, giving us fags, whiskey, and I knew, and I felt like saying, like when Paul Chandler's mother found out that he'd been killed, she wrote, and it was in the Sun newspaper, she wrote, for God's sake, we're all Christians, aren't we? Yeah. And that's what I felt like then. But it made you wonder what you were doing sometimes. Then the last tour we did, again, a bombardier in D battery had upset somebody, and I think I might have upset somebody in HQ battery. So I got my second tape and was sent to D battery, take his place, which meant I lost my nice cushy job. So now I was actually pounding the streets, sitting out in the pissing rain at long hours, middle of the night, and not getting all the excitement that I was getting in the intelligence section. But the worst bit was when we were due to go to Londonderry. To take over from a tank regiment. They'd evidently the city centre literally had the guts blown out of it. Been bombed to hell, and this regiment got the blame of it because not, keeping the bombers out. So basically, the CO was demoted, and so was the RSM.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know the full truth, but anyway, I think we were due to have gone to Canada on exercise, but anyway, we ended up going there. And the problem was, if you went to tank regiment, there's a hell of a lot more bods than you've got in an artillery regiment. So, of course, there we were, and we were literally working 16, 17 hours a day. We could only take our clothes off once a week and actually get into bed. That was once a week. And what you threw all your kit on the floor next to your bed. You slept for 8 hours, or tried to. And then when you woke up, you had all your clean kit there, and you were able to have a bath and a shower, which were in portaloos at the back. And we were absolutely... we were dead on our feet.
Can you imagine?
Could you imagine? There's about 60 men in one room in 2-tier bunks. And every 2 hours coming in and off different patrols and duties. So it was a non-stop rattling and helmets, shields, rifles, all the time. So we had 5. We had one vehicle checkpoint, which was on the road just outside the city wall. Then we had pedestrian checkpoints at the 4 gates in Londonderry, and then we'd have a patrol. So you had those 6 different duties going round, and it was absolute shattering. I looked at the photograph the other day, and it looked like you'd swear that the blokes were on drugs. That's what their eyes looked like. And having mentioned that, we had a Welsh lad with us, and he'd done a tour, and he did not want to do another tour of Ireland. So in them days, if you had a accidental discharge, it was 2 weeks nick. So what they used to do is, a month before each trip to Ireland, we used to draw 10 blank rounds out of the armoury and practice clearing the weapon every time we went in out of the building. And then we had this discharge, got 2 weeks nick. So this bloke, good. So he was behind me, and he fucking cocked his rifle and fired it. I didn't feel it, but later I realised he'd put a hole in my combat trousers. So anyway, he got marked report the OC, and his big smile on his face when he got 2 weeks nick. That smile soon changed when the CO said, when you've completed your tour of Ireland, whenever on a holiday. So anyway, he went over the wall. He legged it into Southern Ireland, where we were.
Wow.
The IRA got hold of him, and he was on TV telling them that we bayoneted babies, and that we were all on drugs and drug addicts and all this shit. I don't know what happened to him, but I think the army got him back.
Yeah.
But we heard no more about him. What's something else I wanted to bring up? But that was a shock to treatment. We had an incident where we were very, very good. We, being artillery instead of infantry, we were less robust, shall I say, than most infantry regiments. So we treated people decently. And I was on the checkpoint opposite the Jimmy's flats, and this old lady came in, and she took a flask out of her bag and left it on the table. And she said, "Have a cup of tea." I said, "Thanks, love." So she went off into town. I thought, "There's no way I'm going to drink it. Don't could be poison the ground up glass, anything." So I went behind a sandbag wall that we had especially for this and gently opened it, very gently, to make sure it wasn't a bomb. Then I tipped out the tea down the drain, put the lid back on. When the lady came back, picked the flask up, and she said to me, I said, "Oh, thanks, tea, love." And she said, "Was there too much sugar in it?" It's just weird to think, in the middle of all that, this was happening.
Well, it's like the way I understand it is when you first went out there in the late 60s and that, we went over there to like kind of protect the Catholic, the Catholic population, and they were so glad to have us there. And then it switched rapidly.
The Protestants went into the Catholic areas and started burning them out, like Bombay Street, completely burnt out. And the RUC, backed up by what we call the bully boys, so these are these specials, and they were thugs, going with, and literally as they forced the Catholics back, the Protestants moved in behind and literally burnt all the houses down. So you had all these people fleeing into Southern Ireland, all these Catholic families on the trains. And got that bad that the Southern Irish Army actually deployed on the border. So I think we were afraid that they might come in. But so we initially went there to stop the Protestant killing the Catholics, and the Catholics were dead chuffed, made us cups of tea. But then the RA turned around to the Catholics and said, hey, the British Army are our enemies. So unfortunately, the day it all turned upside down, it was the Royal Marines there. And next thing they know, not only are they holding the pods back, but they're getting tapped from both sides.
Yeah.
And one of the lads, he got he was the PSM or SSM. He got shot in the neck, taken wounded to the hospital. And he wrote a book about it, which is woof. And then, of course, then the Protestant then started being nice to us and giving us cups of tea. And that was, so every route you had friendly houses where you could stop by and you get a cup of tea. So.
But I mean, as much as people probably don't like to admit it, even in the, like when I went out there, and even during the training and stuff like that, you always, I wouldn't say you sided with the Protestants, but you felt as though they were more on our side. They were,
yes,
if you were stuck out in the shit, you'd probably get help off them more than you would off the Catholic population. So you kind of, I wouldn't say, like I say, people won't admit it, but people were biased towards the UVF and stuff like that. You kind of looked at them. You kind of looked at them and thought, yeah, no, they're all right, type of thing. But they weren't. They were all as fucking bad as each other. They were all killers.
Yes. The only difference between them was the UDF, that they all had licenses for their guns. Because many times when we were searching people, we'd come across someone with a gun in a holster in civvies, and they turned out to be. But no, it was. I was trying to think something else that happened that was a bit notable. Oh, yeah, a lot of things happened that shouldn't. I mean, when we in Armagh, one of the sergeants, he was out on patrol in the city centre, and there was this minivan, and it was rocking backwards and forwards. So obviously, there was a couple of having shag in the back. But so he banged on the roof, and this boy said, "Fuck off!" Well, they forgot to lock the door. She opened the door, took the handbrake off, and it rolled down the hill with these two in the back, and hit the lamp up. Oh.
It's the little things that make you happy, isn't it?
Yeah. And what happened? I really got towards the last tour. I was in D battery. I didn't fit in at all well with D battery. I don't know why, but I'd met an Irish girl I was engaged to get married to. We had a wedding set, and that had to be cancelled because of the thing. And I said, well, can I just have the day off to get married? She said, no. I said, well, she's pregnant. I said, well, she'll only be 6 months pregnant by the time we get back from Ireland. It won't show.
Fucking hell.
And then before that, before that, I was due to have a minor operation. And again, the doctor said, look, he's got to have this. And they said, no, they can't spare him. So again, I went, and then the time I re-enlisted, so I was due re-enlistment leave. So I thought, what I'll do, I'll save it for when we go to Hong Kong, and then when the baby's born, I'll have it as maternity leave, because you didn't get that in them days.
Yeah.
Well, so the baby's born, lovely little girl, and they said, we can't spare you. You can have day on, day off. So I used up my about 6 weeks leave, I think, all accumulated by having a day in work, day off work, which wasn't very clever. And that really pissed me off. So then, because I'd been in the work for Trinity House and for Westminster Dredgers, I knew all the rules of the road. And in Hong Kong, it's such a busy waterway, you have to have a driving licence to take a boat out. Yeah. So obviously, I mean, I knew it all from me Merchant Navy days. So I sat the test and got my engineer's certificate, my master's certificate for vessels up to 15 tons. Well, because I had this, when they found out the amendment, they put me in charge of the Gordon Hard Boat Club.
Right.
As bosun. So that was quite pleasant. And I was away, and I was really happy with it, loved it. And I've been given a quarter in a place called Mayfu Sun Chen, which is a modern complex of tower blocks. And they're so close together that if you're anywhere below the 6th floor, you never got any daylight, literally. So the first one I got was awful. It was dirty. It was full of cockroaches. And I said to the landlord, look, I'm expecting a baby. Can I have a cot, please? Well, this cot came in and it was covered in sick from the previous baby. So I took the mattress into work and we saw me BC as can I have permission to go private hiring? So I said yes, which meant I didn't have to pay the army. They got all the money in. I went private cinema. I got a brand new flat on the 19th floor, overlooking the sea. And it was right on the edge of Hong Kong Harbour.
Wow.
It was fantastic. So I had Stone Cotters Island in the middle between thing. And of course, all the officers' wives used to come and visit the women and thing. But of course, they always wanted to go in our flat because it was so nice. It was absolutely immaculate. Anyway, it had 2 bathrooms because we had one bathroom was for the servants. So I turned that into a dark room. Now, in Hong Kong, when you work in the dark room, the big thing is your temperature. Yeah. So in England, it's keeping it warm. In Hong Kong, it was opposite, it's keeping it cold. So what you do is you basically fill balloons up with water, put them in the freezer, and they freeze, and you put them in your chemicals. Well, because Durexes were free, you got them by the handful every time you walked out the camp gates. I had these and I filled them up and I had them in the freezer. Then one day, one of the officers went to the freezer to get something out. Oh, God, just always Durexes lined up. Oh, the days.
So what were you doing in Hong Kong?
Sorry?
What were you doing in Hong Kong? What was the job there, the role?
Oh, well, basically it was a naval base there, which is HMS Tamar. Then also we were there as a deterrent against the Chinese, but all the Chinese had to do was turn the water off and we would have been fucked. But also, of course, we did the Korean Honour Guard from there. And while we were there, the regiment did 2 tours. And the trouble was one of the tanky regiment that was there, when they did it, 2 of their lads got VD, which was quite common out there. Yeah. And so when they got back, one of the wives cut his dick off.
Right.
And the other one, he got in a fight with his wife and he thought he'd killed her. So he jumped off his balcony and committed suicide. But luckily none of our lads came back with it, no block. But of course, then Hong Kong was being used for R&R for the American Army in Vietnam. And of course, the Vietnamese were practicing biological warfare. And basically they were importing girls who had the worst possible forms of BD that you can imagine. Yeah. Just purposely to sleep with American soldiers. And when we first arrived in Hong Kong by plane, all the men were shoved into this room for lecture, leaving all the wives and babies outside. And they had a slideshow of all these prostitutes and they told all about all the VD and everything else. Believe you me, when we came out of that room, they hadn't deterred us. Everybody wanted to go down Wan Chai and get their leg over. But anyway, that was the favourite place, Wan Chai. And that was the red light district on the actual Hong Kong side. And we were on the New Territory side. Our camp was Sekong, and that was about 15 miles away from Kowloon itself. So that was a a nice 3-ton drive in the mornings and the evenings to go home again. So anyway, so I got the job as bosun at the yacht club, and then we had a new BC, a Major Tucker, and he had a boat and he wanted to sell it. So I literally sold it within hours of him telling me, and I got the price he wanted for it. So he said to me, "Coy, I'll buy you a pint." He said, "No, I'll buy you a barrel of beer." He said, "I said, can I have a posting?" Which is okay. He said, "You do well away from the regiment." So he said, "Any posting that comes up, you can have." So the chief clerk was a keen sailor. And on Saturdays, we used to have races. And what he used to do to make it fair, he used to draw lots for the boats, because some boats were faster than others. Yeah. So, of course, I always made sure that he got the boat he wanted. In return, in return, he told me all posts. I got them before they went up on orders. And one came up for the Army Youth Team in Mill Hill, which was the Royal Engineers Postal Depot. And it's a 2-year posting. And I ended up doing 4 years there. It just so happened that my main job was the mountaineering side and rock climbing, and also I should do safety for the canoeing for the backup boat. And because I was skinny, I was like a spider. I could climb anything, and all the courses I went on, I got fantastic reports back. Yeah. I could out climb the instructors. And I really enjoyed it. So we also used to teach the kids Duke of Edinburgh Award schemes. So nights in the winter we were at our schools and youth clubs during the lecture, during the first aid and the walking parts. So it was good. And of course, we worked with the Army Cadet Force and the CCF, and I must tell you, the CCF were a pleasure to work with. Lovely lads, had their own discipline, and all from posh schools. Like we had Haileybury School, we had Berkhamsted School, St Albans School, and they were absolutely brilliant to work with. But then he came down to the ordinary ACF. Oh God, oh. The NCOs were rubbing cigarettes off the privates, and you were taking rock climbing, you lose off them to be behind the rock smoking. But the CF, anyway, I got offered a job with the Berkhamsted CCF, but I would love to take it because you got a house with it and everything, and it's right on the Grand Union Canal. And but unfortunately, my wife would have had to go on to the housekeeping team. Yeah. And she didn't want to do that. So I turned the job down. Then I was offered a job. A very good friend of mine who was a staff sergeant in the Regimental Police. We used to go fishing together, and he lived just down the road from me. When he left the army, he got a job bodyguarding the Saudi royal family. And every so often they came to England and used to take over 2 floors of a hotel. Now, he was from Liverpool, and if he wanted to have a day off to go home to see his parents, he had to find someone to take his place. So that was me. Basically, I would do what we would call a corridor. But I was getting
So you were still serving then?
Yeah. Yeah. But of course, I was with the Army Youth Team, so of course it was part. Also, that year was when the Labour government said we went a couple of years without any pay rises, but we were losing travel warrants. Then you lost a suitcase. Then you didn't get your clothes renewed when they wore out. And this particular year, they said, sorry, no more pay, but you can all get part-time jobs, providing your CO says you can. Right. Well, a lot of King's troop were quartered where I was quartered. And straight away, all of a sudden, the place filled up with bloody Alsatian dogs. Because we were all getting jobs as security men, and a dog got a man's pay. So they all acquired these dogs. But anyway, so what we have to do is to sit at night in the corridor where the sheik was and his family, and the guy in charge was the next Green Beret, and he had all the weapons, and he had them in his room, and I had a radio, so the problem I had to was get him up. And then one year, and I only had a year left to do, one of the guards, when he was an Arab guy, he dropped his pistol on the floor of the hotel, which didn't go down at all well. So he was sacked and I was offered his job. But I had to get out of the army before the end of June when the sheik was going back to Saudi Arabia. Well, it was a fantastic idea because my mate, the idea was that we'd do it for 2 years and buy a hotel in Wales. And my wife would have been good at that. But anyway, the army wouldn't let me out in time. Talk about, it's one they say when you think you're too good for your own good. Oh, we can't spare you. Come September, oh yeah, you can go now. Oh,
yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up, they disbanded the youth teams at the same time as they disbanded 3RHA. So D Battery were going to go to Hona. And there's no way that I was going to go to Hona for 7 years, whatever. It was a shithole. I'd done enough time there. And so that's when I put in for the 18 months to come out. And then just brought it in that you could put in notice to come out. And so then he disbanded the Army Youth Team. So they discovered that it didn't really make any difference to the recruiting. In fact, more soldiers left the army after being in a youth team than joined, which was true. So they were going to post me to Woolwich for my last 6 months. Well, I wanted to come out in Colchester, live in Colchester, because it was a fantastic town, plenty of work there, near the sea. I had my boat there and everything else. So I said, well, wouldn't it be better if I went to number 2 cadet training team? They're based in Colchester, and I said they do a very similar job to what I'm doing here, except we do eventual training, map reading and everything. It's a good idea, so he posted me there. And lucky enough, because the state to come out, I bought a lot of furniture in Habitats because it was all collapsible.
Yeah.
So they offered me brand new house, flats and everything. I said, no, don't. Give me something old and knackered, because I'm only there for a few months and I've got my own furniture. So they gave me this 3-bedroom house on Greenstead Estate. And so what happened, we got the farmers' strike started, so we did 10 weeks up in Bedford. We had three crews. We had a RAF crew. We had what was left of the Army Youth Team, who'd been disbanded. It was still time to keep us there, put us onto a thing, and an RAF crew. And I called my Green Goddess Green Gilbert. They didn't allow it. They decided they named them all after the Muppet things. So we had Miss Piggy, the Great Gonzo. So we did that for 10 weeks. That was a pain. And then went to Colchester, and I put my name down for a council house. I put one name down in Livingston Town where I came from. She said, sorry, you've got to live here for 10 years and go on the waiting list for 5 years. I said, well, look, I went to school here, I've been in the army, didn't count. Where I was in London, at Mill Hill, straight away said, yeah, they keep offering me a place, and same with Colchester. In them days in Colchester, they had to give the army places basically what they were living in the army. Then they changed it to under the rank of sergeants. But anyway, with me, so they gave me this 3-bedroom house from Greenstead Estate, and it was empty. And they gave it me a week before I was due out. So I said, right, what I'll do is I'll go in and paint and decorate it all, which I did, and then I'll carpet it all before we move in. So I went to a carpet shop, and I said, I want a complete house with the carpets on HP. They said, fair enough. And the idea was that when I got my, I think I got about $2,500 relocation money. When that came through, I just paid it off. So he filled all the forms out, and he said, right, what's your job? I said to him, in the army. He went, boah! He tore all these sheets up, threw them to the ground, said, we've got other forms for you lot. I said, you what? I said, you're more like it. So he said, stuff you. So I went to the bank and said, to game the thing. They said, sure enough, they lent me the money, and I went across the road to another shop, complete carpeted the house all out. That was good. So, but people just couldn't understand. I couldn't understand that how on earth I could only entitled to a 2-bedroom flat. But because I had this old house from the army, then of course, then when good old Maggie came along and said you could buy a thing, I bought it and moved out and moved on to Mersey Island, where I always wanted to live.
So what did you do for work after you left the army then?
I worked for the Royal London Insurance Society. They had they opened up their head office in Colchester, and I got a job there. And then they literally sacked just 2002. They sacked everybody except one person and moved the business up north where it was cheaper to run. Yeah. But I got very nicely, thank you. Got early retirement, a nice little lump sum, so I did very well out of it. And then, of course, I got my army pension, and it's surprising how much that had gone up. I think it was about £900 a year when I left.
Yeah.
But the time I got it was about £4 or £5 grand.
Yeah, it's a nice pension. Mine's just gone up last year, so I'm like, yeah, it's nice.
Oh yeah. Do you still do it? If you did your full 22 years, you got your army pension, but you didn't get any pay rises till you were about 60.
55, yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, because my best mate Brian Smith, he used to be J Battery, and then he was the provost sergeant, and then he ran the stables. He was quite surprised.
So I seen on Facebook when when you agreed to do this, I had a quick look at you, and I seen you in Chelsea pensioners uniform.
Well, what happened was my wife died of a heart attack when she was 68.
Right, sorry to hear that.
Well, got over it now, but we all died. We were all together. She was watching her favourite programme, which was Gogglebox. She was in the chair, daughter sitting next to another chair, and the dog at her feet. And I was lying on the sofa. We had 2 TVs. I was watching my football on one, and anyway, I fell asleep. When I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, she was dead, with her eyes closed. So anyway, on the autopsy, it turned out she had cancer of the liver, but she didn't die of it. She died of a heart attack.
All right.
But of course, she thought she did have pain there, but she thought it was sciatica. And a lot of people with the liver with the cancer think they've got sciatica. So I was a member of the Royal Signals Association, which we used to meet up in the new barracks in Colchester once a month. And a chap came down from Chelsea, gave a lecture on the place. And now I've been on my own then for about 2 years. So I thought, yeah, you know what? So I went up there. And you go for a week's trial. They look at you and you look at them. And you get accepted. So I was accepted. And I went up there and they put me in a ward, long ward 23. And it was right behind the main gates. And unfortunately, my window was about 18 inches off the ground. And of course, you've got all the coaches and buses coming out of Victoria along there and the traffic lights. And it was making me ill.
Yeah.
And the doctor, he said, you know, you've been living by the seaside most of your life. He said, this has happened to a lot of those that come here. They just get... So they moved me into the infirmary, which was called Maggie Thatcher Infirmary, because she raised the money to have it built. And her ashes and her husband's ashes are actually buried under our patio.
Oh, Dennis's?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew that.
But we're not supposed to tell people, but a lot of people know. And of course, there's no mark there, but we leave flowers there. There's always flowers on this spot. And the criteria of getting in is for men broken by age and war, unencumbered by a spouse. So basically it meant that I did have a wife and I could go. So I went and I did a lot of voluntary work there. We used to go visit schools and different things like that. And we used to get invited all over England, all around the world really, to different occasions. Like every Christmas, a group go to Paris. A lot of people go to the Channel Islands, just to show the flag, really. I enjoyed there's loads of things there to do. I did the pottery class there, which I really, really enjoyed. At the Bowls Club. But I had to pack in because my lungs were that bad with the pollution because I ended up with COPD.
Yeah.
Now I've got emphysema and also I've had lung cancer and had one lung removed. So I just couldn't walk up and down anymore. But it's a wonderful place to go to. It can be lonely because once you shut your door at night, but it is good. And there's a lot of traditions there, notwithstanding the Founders Day Parade, which is on June every year. And a member of the royal family comes and inspects us and we parade in front of them. And then we have a fucking big piss up.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I've never been there, unfortunately, but I know guys who have, and they've gone down for a visit, especially when I was at Lark Hill. Some of the lads went up there for the weekend, and they come back and they just said, I couldn't handle it. I said, what couldn't you handle? He said, we got there, got shown around and all that, and then it took us to the bar, and all the old guys were sat in there, and we couldn't keep up.
Oh. The only time I've ever pissed myself was the first Founders Day Parade. So we had our parade at 11 and it finished at 12. So we all went down to the fields at the back of the hospital. There's all these tents put up and beer and people. Well, I must have drunk about 12 pints and half a bottle of vodka. And it's 11:30 at night. And I'm staggering, and I'm trying to get to the toilets underneath the dining room. There's a big gold statue there of Charles II. And I got as far as that, and I was literally pushing myself down my leg. Anyway, I went to bed, got up right, felt all right. Went to the cafe for coffee, and there was a woman in there, so I chatted her up, got a date with her. And then I went for dinner. Then after dinner, I felt so ill. Literally, went to bed again, and woke up 2 days later. They say there was a drinking problem there. They keep the doctors, as soon as you get there, they tell you. But we have a lot of events. We have the Christmas pudding stir. We have the cheese event when every make of cheese in sends cheese there, and all these events. And they call me at 10:30 in the morning, and there's all these bottles of ale on the table. They're 9.5% proof, and this is 10:30 in the morning. Oh. But no, yeah. And of course, when you go out anywhere, people are always buying you drinks. And the Chinese and Japanese women are the worst, They keep draping themselves on you, Yeah. And you've got to be very careful if you're near a station. People either ask you to carry the suitcase or ask you what time the next train to so-and-so is. I mean, when I met the girl I'm married to now, our first date, I said, well, meet her at Victoria Station. Fair enough. So I got there and I said, I'll be in uniform so they can recognise me. I said, if there's two of us, I'll be the good-looking one. So I said, I'm here. She said back, so am I. I said, where are you? I said, well, I'm by Burger King. She said, so am I. Well, it turned out there's two Burger Kings, one at platform 1 and one at platform 12. Just used at the one and I was at 12. So she don't go away, stay there. So I stayed there and this American woman sat next to me. She looked at me and she said, what are you? Well, we have these little pamphlets that explains all about the pensions. I always kept some in my pocket. So when people ask me silly questions like that, just give it to them, which I did. And then my wife-to-be turned up and that was it. We hit it off straight away.
Yeah.
But she's older than me. She's a year older than me. Her birthday's the day before mine. But she is so fit. I mean, she's been in equestrian most of her life. And she runs the farm. And she thinks I should be fit as well. Well, I'm not. I just can't. God, I mean, she's up at 6:30 every morning. Does all the work on the farm till 10:30. Then she's free for the rest of the day. But she's practically broken every bone in her body from hauling off horses. and she's just so fit. I mean, I've had to give up driving, but she still drives. But yeah, but she was very impressed. We went to the Tower of London visit last 2 years ago, and I did the Cenotaph year before last. And of course, she came up with me, and she was very impressed with the people she met, and of course, and the wives. They treated her very, very well. Yeah.
So you keep in touch with everyone through the Red Cipher and stuff like that as well, through the PPMA?
Yeah, I'm going up there for the Tower visit.
Yeah.
And what we do, we stop at the Tower Hotel next door, which is a fantastic hotel, but it's a bit old-fashioned. I'll tell you how old-fashioned it is. There are ashtrays in the lifts, you know. But it has no balcony, so you can't smoke. Yeah.
Well, Patrick, I think we've reached the end of it now. Then
I reckon so,
that's been an hour and a half. Yeah, it flies, doesn't it? It's great. I tell you what, this has been one of the best ones I've done up to now. I could just sit here forever listening to you.
We're going to do another one.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did listening to Pat's story. I can imagine that there's a few more tales out there that he could tell, but I doubt we could broadcast them. So I'd appreciate it if you could just leave a comment on whatever platform you're listening. Also share this around your social media. The more people get to listen to it, the better. If you like this podcast or the previous ones, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Frankie'sPod. It just goes to help fund the software and the hosting.